Welcome to DR Sports Transfer Daily. My name's Nicky Hawkins. I'm here with a wonderful Laurie Lar. We're going to
Thank you, sir.
Some.
Good to see you, by the way.
And you, mate.
For a while. You're looking well. You look like you lost weight, mate.
Lost a bit of weight. Got a bit of a tan.
Yeah.
Can't be complaining.
Got the guns out.
Got the gun. Sun's out, guns out. You know how it goes. Got the backwards hat on, so I'm having a full-on midlife crisis to be honest with you, but there we go. Let's go through the discussions of the stories today. Rashford's return to Man United could be back there Monday. Nico Williams signs a new deal for 10 years with Atletico Bilbao. Kudus, unfortunately, could be going to Spurs. Is Eze to Arsenal done?
Yes, please.
Yes, please, Laurie says. And Buemo transfer saga. And we will be talking, obviously, about Diogo Jota and yesterday's tragic news. But there is a bit of a breaking news as we start. And we're not going to discuss this too much because it's just breaking and we don't know the details on it. But Thomas Partey apparently has been charged on 5 counts of and 1 count of sexual assault. It says here the offences are reported to have taken place between 2021, 2022. The Met Police have said...
We've known about a potential for this sometime. As you said, it's been going on since 21-22. I'm aware that the file was made by the police and sent to the CPS. They've now charged him. The legal process will take its course. It's important to remember that he's been charged, but he's not guilty.
Yes,
so
yes.
He will
charged,
get his day in court. And
which is meant to be the 5th of August, I've heard. It's going to be the day in court. So we'll keep an eye on that. We're not trying to avoid it. But
it would be remiss of us to comment any further.
We cannot comment. You know, it would be remiss of us. But as you said, and I've got to say this, tragic day for football yesterday. You know, I wasn't in yesterday. Obviously, there was been people speaking about it. I know Alex has done a video on his channel. But all our love and condolences to the Jota family who lost, obviously, not just one but 2 sons yesterday. Two sons, 2 husbands, 2 fathers. Tragically gone.
He just got married, didn't he? Just got married.
Do you know what, Laurie? I was just about to say that was the most heartbreaking thing I think I've seen. Is because about 10, 11 days ago, I see them all at his wedding. And you've got to say this, and I will say this to the audience. Life is precious. Life is short. You never know when it's going to get taken away. At one point, that guy just got married to his childhood sweetheart, got 3 children with her, just won the Premier League, on his way back to training, thinks maybe on his way to a different club, so another, a big part of his life. And tragically just taken away, and that it just goes to show you how fragile life is. And football's football, but a son's been taken.
Listen, I know this only too well. You're aware of my circumstance. I had a family tragedy, not too dissimilar to that. I won't go into it for obvious reasons, but I know how hard this hits. Yeah. And I was devastated when I heard the news. I mean, I heard yesterday morning. I couldn't believe it. It was one of them where I saw it. And it's almost like I had to check about 2 or 3 sources.
I had to do the same.
Because you're in disbelief that something like this could have happened. It's so sad.
I saw the earliest report of it. So it was a Spanish website that reported it, first of all. And obviously, the internet's the internet. You have to double check your sources. And the first thing I've done is rang AGT. And I couldn't get through to him. He was probably on the phone to many other people to say, have you heard this? Have you know what's going on? But as the news broke and, more reputable sources, and I'm not saying they're not reputable, but more sources started to break it and it started to become apparent that it was true. My heart sunk. And I'm sure your heart sunk because of the
like I said, because
circumstances.
I've been through a similar thing with an experience of my own in my family, it hurt even deeper, you know what I mean? Because I can put myself in his wife's position and 1 or 2, you know what I mean? And it's something that you never get over. Trust me, I've never got over my situation fully. And it's a real heartbreaker because, like I said, they just got married, 3 small kids. And the knock-on effect is so wide. It affects so many people. You know what I mean?
And when you're in the spotlight, like in Liverpool, a massive fan base, very dedicated fans, very passionate fans, take players to their hearts. You talk about transfers with AGT. If you mention a Liverpool player, you don't want any of them to go. You know what I mean? None of them are going to leave Liverpool. So it echoes worldwide, and I'm sure that Portuguese international, but not just him, his brother as well. But the most important thing, a father. A son, a brother, a sister. Sisters have got
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, as I say, all of our condolences, DR Sports, go out to the Otter family and everyone with a Liverpool affected by that. But let's go on to the transfers right now. Marcus Rashford. This saga is going to go on and on and on for Marcus Rashford. So Aston Villa basically made their, put their cards on the table and said, look, we're not going to buy him. I don't know whether it's that, they've got PSR issues and everything else like that. So he has to return to Man United for the start of pre-season training on Monday. Laurie, right before I go read the rest, is he going to turn up?
No, I think he'll turn up.
You think he'll turn up?
Yeah, because listen, it's in his best interest to play his part, do what he needs to do, get his move. Because don't forget, he's under the spotlight right now. And there's a few others, I'm sure we're going to talk about it. But all those guys in a similar position know that they can't afford to F around. They have to be professional and, get fit, make themselves available in order to get their moves. So,
Well, it says here, 5 players want to leave Man United. And on the 5 is Marcus Rashford, Anthony, I can't remember. I never can pronounce it. Garnacho, Malaysia, and Rashford and Jadon Sancho have all informed Manchester United officially they want to leave.
Well, there's no future for any of those players.
Well, I've got to say this, right? They want 60 million for. I don't know what they want for the rest, but they want. But Garnacho, they want 60 million for. 27-year-old Marcus Rashford, England international. Let's be honest, on his day, fantastic player.
Oh, yeah.
They value him at £40 million.
Damn.
40 million. Have they shown their hand too early here? Because
that is
you're
very
talking
low.
about 2 years ago. He's a £100 million player plus. You know what?
I think that's a sign of how desperate they are to offload him. But I think the problem anyone taking him on is going to be the wages, isn't it? Which is why they've reduced the fee as well.
Subsidised the wage.
Yeah. So.
But do you think he's in a position now where he can turn around and command these wages? I mean, in December he got sort of exiled from the side, same as Garnacho. Garnacho got exiled from the side as well. There's no way back from here. It could be a point where he's got to take the first offer.
Yeah, he
wants. With all due respect, I like Marcus Rashford. I think Marcus Rashford is a good player. He's a good humanitarian as well. But the saga with Man United, I don't know where it comes from. Listen, I think Man United are a toxic club. I really do. You don't get this many people exiled from side. I've never seen it.
No.
This many sort of wanting to leave and all of that sort of stuff for any other reason than I just want out of this football club because this football club's no good for me.
It's a sinking ship.
It's a sinking ship, yeah. I said it. And they've got a massive rebuild. The managers come in. None of the managers that they've got in the last sort of 5-6 years, we've heard it from Flex, we've heard it from everyone. It's always going to be, this is the one that's going to turn this whole club around. You've had Jose Mourinho, you've had Louis van Gaal, all of these experienced managers, and none of them have been able to do it. No. Ruben Amorim has come in. Do you think he's done the right thing here? Do you think he sort of wielded the axe and said, right, no matter who you are, because we have seen it with Alex Ferguson in the past. He got rid of Roy Keane, that was a massive influence. He got rid of David Beckham, who, at the time, he axed unceremoniously, just turned around and went, I've got no need for him. Is this the right way to lead this club, or is there other factors at play here, Laurie? Like, does he need to, he may not be allowed to unload these assets. Yeah. So should he just be like a little bit more cautious in the way he approaches these players and give them away?
Yeah,
back?
I hear what you're saying, and you do make a good point. I think from the outside looking in, I do think that someone needs to come in and try and, sweep the clean, as it were. I mean, there's so much going on at that club. It's toxic. There's some bad eggs there. They need to, like I said, start afresh. And the way to do that is to identify people who need to leave, move them on, and bring in players of the right character. So, yeah, I do think, on balance, that is the right thing to do.
So do you think these 5 players here, do you think they've just sort of shown their hand in to say, well, I know the club are not going to want me, so I'm going to turn around and pretend it's me wanting to leave the club rather than the other way around? Because the names here, Anthony wasn't getting games. Garnacho, out of favour, didn't even play hardly in the final, which I thought was a madness, to be honest with you. Malaysia, Rashford and Sancho. Players that do not play under Amorim.
I guess in a way they have done the right thing, because what is the alternative? They could go to United, just sit there, see out their contract, pick up the money, which is even worse. And then whilst at the same time, they're still creating that unpleasant atmosphere at the club. So I do think it's in the best interest of all concerned that all of those aforementioned players move on. I mean, Malacia is slightly different because I don't think he's had any problems that I'm aware of.
Not really, no. I think it's just game time, maybe.
Yeah, but all of the others, Anthony, Rashford, Garnacho, and of course Sancho, they've all had problems with managers, and
multiple managers now.
Exactly. So it's time for those guys to move on and sweep the clean and make a new fresh start.
But £40 million now for Marcus Rashford. I said this earlier on last season, I think he would suit Arsenal. I think he would suit Arsenal style of play. I think it would be a big challenge for him. I think he'd enjoy the lifestyle in London.
He'd certainly would.
He would enjoy it. But with Marcus Rashford, if he's in a good space, like at Villa last year, he's a good player and he can score. You got to think, not this season, but the season before, he's hitting 20, 25 goals.
Yeah. Listen, we all know he's a quality player, despite what anyone wants to say about Rashford. I think even deep down, United fans will recognise that on his day, when he's focused, he's a quality player. For me, I think he needs a move abroad. I think he needs to make that move. I think it will mature him as a man and as an individual as well. Make that move, take him out of the cauldron or
But do you not think he's limited? He's obviously on a lot of wages. Yeah, there's a lot of money at Man United here. No bid so far, £40 million, which is a very low fee for a player like that. He's openly said he wants to go to Barcelona. He's made Barcelona, he sort of, twerked for Barcelona, sort of.
Yeah, you could say that.
Barcelona haven't come in for him.
I know.
Barcelona have got their own...
they're cash strapped, isn't
it? Yeah, Barcelona have got their own financial issues. Has he limited his options here? Because he may have to go and take £100,000 a week at an Atletico Madrid rather than a Real Madrid. To get his... I mean, he's not got many years of his prime of his career left.
And we've got the World Cup coming up next year, so I'm pretty sure he'll want to be on that plane out to America and that. So he may have to not just drop his money, but drop a bit of the ego as well. And if, say, a slightly lesser than stellar top club comes in for him, he might have to consider that also. He needs to be playing week in, week out.
I'll tell you what, Marcus. Give
Would
Potter
you guys
a call,
take
mate.
him?
He'd be a superstar at our place. He'd be loved at our place,
Because he did. Remember Lingard when he rocked up? He was amazing for you guys.
Give Jesse a call. Get the advice off of him. What was it like there and all that? If you could drop that to 30 mil and take 100k a week, I'm sure we'll be able to do something. Because he'd be loved at West Ham.
I'll tell you what is interesting though, because you mentioned that Arsenal connection, and I remember when he was first going through, just before he went to Villa. I remember I was on a couple of shows for AFTV, and as soon as I mentioned his name, everybody just shut it down straight away.
Yeah.
And then you went in the comments and it was like, no way, we don't want this player. But the ironic thing is, he is a quality player. If you can get a fit, focused
Marcus
Rashford, he can only enhance your team.
There we go.
So it's a watch this space one. Similar for Sancho. I think there's a player in there as well. And Garnacho as well. Garnacho is another one.
I just think they're limited for the the money they're on. If they're not going to, at least...
Would you take any of the others at West Ham?
I'll take them all. I'll take you at the minute, mate. You know what I mean? It's getting that bad, But it's... it's...
I would cost you considerably less than those guys in terms of wages. But would you take Garnacho?
I love Garnacho as a player.
I think he's
he's a really good player. But Nico Williams is staying at obviously he signed a new deal with Atletico Bilbao. Does that mean that could open the door to Rashford to Barcelona? I mean, we've spoken about they might be cash strapped. They was after Nico Williams. But now does that open the door to Barcelona for him? Possibly.
It's possible. Because the way Barcelona were carrying on, they made it seem like they had Nico Williams in the bag.
Done and dusted, yeah. But he's signed something like a
10-year deal.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, Nico Williams has signed a 10-year contract with her. 10 years.
But we all know that part of that is because of the resale. They want to maximise so that if there's a release clause and so forth.
But that puts him in a bad position. You're about to go to Barcelona. Barcelona's been heavily touted for you. 22-year-old. So he's not going to be cheap anyway.
No.
But listen, I like this from players to give your parent club a good chance of getting some money for you. But
the interesting thing about that is that Nico Williams has always said that he's very happy at Bilbao. He's actually come out and said that. So I guess in some ways, him signing that long-term deal with the financial incentives in there for the club is not surprising to me now, because he'd always said that he loves playing for Bilbao. So
it says here that the 22-year-old has been heavily linked with Barcelona, while German club Bayern Munich were also speculated to be interested in his services. Previous deal with Bilbao was scheduled to run out in 2027, so it wasn't like he had it was running out this summer or next summer, but he's extended his terms now with them until June 30th of June 2035. I don't even think I'm going to be alive by then, mate.
Yeah, like I said, we all know why that deal has been structured in that way, because financially it benefits the club.
The Spanish club said to have said external Williams release clause, which is believed to have been 62 million euros, which is 53 million pounds, has been increased by 50%. So it'd be about 100 million to get him out of there, which, when he's your best player, I think that's very fair. It's a very smart thing to do, and it's very... What's the word?
That shows how much they want him and value him.
That's very wholesome of him to do that for the club, I think. When decisions have been made for me, that weighs most on my heart. I'm where I want to be with my people. This is my home, said Williams. That's a good story.
I'll tell you what, if you're a Bilbao fan, you'd love to hear that.
Oh.
Your best player.
Even if he gets sold. This is the thing about him, right? So you always think about the future, and there's certain PR. Even if he gets sold now, and they meet his release clause, and he says, look, I've got no choice. He's always going to be loved by Bilbao for saying things like that, for extending the contract, for giving them a lot more money.
As long as the mutual parties stick to the deal. Because as we've seen with Gyökeres recently, he had a release clause deal. Although it wasn't signed, apparently. It was like a shake hands deal.
Yeah.
And now either party is accusing the other one of reneging on the deal. So as long as it, you know what I mean? But it sounds like it'll work because they've signed the deal. So that's it.
There we go. A very wholesome story, that. I like that. Nico Williams will stay with Atletico Bilbao. So the Man United one, going back to Man United, huge rebuild there, huge problems there.
Massive.
Where do you see them finishing next season? Honestly,
well, I mean, obviously,
early predictions.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if they can get the type of players they're looking to get through the door, I mean, I've got to admit, if they get Mbuemo, they've got Cunha, which I think he's a very good player. Again, fit, focused Cunha, good player. If they get Mbuemo, who I do rate, I would have taken Mbuemo at Arsenal, to be honest. If they get him, another good deal. And depends on who they sign. Listen, I think it's fair to say that they won't be as bad as they was last season, but it'd be difficult for me to say what would represent a good season for them next season, because they're starting at such a low ebb.
I've just been told as well, this is another one in the Rashford thing. Cunha has been given Rashford's shirt number 10. Wow. So if there's anywhere, they're poking him out with a pitchfork now. Get out the door. We don't.
And Cunha, knowing him as I do, he'll love that. Listen, he wants to be the main man.
As I said, Marcus, we've got a number 10 going out, mate. It's going to be the shirt's available for you. Come.
Cunha will be looking at that. Is that the king is dead? Long live the king. I'm here now. It's my time. And he looks like that type of guy. He looks like a guy that's got an ego and wants to prove something. So.
I don't know whether to go to you or to depress myself a little bit, but I'm going to depress myself a little bit. Right, so Mohamed Kudus.
Yeah, let's talk about it,
to Spurs. West Ham believe they're being quite reasonable after responding to Tottenham and their raised second bid for Mohamed Kudus, according to a report. I've been told, personally, that talks have been ongoing between Kudus and Spurs, and they're getting along pretty well, and Kudus is openly saying he wants to go there, which is... I'll tell you what, if he doesn't go there, he's not going to be welcomed back to the London Stadium without a little bit of heat. Let's be saying. After calling the idea of signing Eberici Eze,
just call him Eze.
And balking at Bournemouth £70 million for Semenyo, Tottenham have fixed their gaze on Mohamed Kudus. The West Ham ace cost £8 million to sign when he plucked from Ajax 2 years ago. TBR reports saying that Spurs' second offer was worth £55 million, £50 million plus £5 million add-ons. Unfortunately for Spurs, it has been rejected. West Ham being reasonable with price tag. Now, I'm going to say this, All right, I'm going to say this as a West Ham fan. I've been having these discussions with Spurs fans over the last couple. Well, not discussions. I've been reading what they've been saying, because obviously we've been reporting on this on our channel, West Ham Fan TV. You know, and it's a bit of a sort of a lukewarm debate, really. You know, some of us are saying absolutely not, which, you know, I do understand when it comes to Spurs. I'll be honest with you. I don't care where he goes, because his performances last year were so inept.
He dropped the ball, didn't he?
He dropped the ball massively. I think it was, you know, when you look at the way he was acting halfway through the season, there was, you know, reports of falling out with a manager. But by the end, he just didn't want to be there, you know. And
why do you think that is, by the way? I'm sorry to digress. I think he just got Billy Big.
I think he's been
word or what?
Yeah, maybe. I think he had a magnificent first season, and listen, he is a magnificent player when he's concentrating. There is too much going on at the club at the minute for me, and I think a player like Mohamed Kudus, who I think came to West Ham with all intents and purposes to leave after 2 years. I don't think he was ever intending to stay.
Oh, right.
I think it was a very much a stepping stone move. He's 24 now. You know, last season he could have probably went to anywhere. You know, anyone would have picked him up for, you know, his release clause, but the release clause didn't come into this year. I think with the, you know, the slipping down the table of the club, the slipping of the standards of the club, the bit of confusion with the managers didn't really know where to play him. He's never really been played in his best position, which is, you know, for a player like him is shocking. I think he's just lost heart. I've just think lost heart with the situation, and he's sort of starting to think to himself like, well, this was meant to be the year where we do well, and I show everyone what I can do, and I'll end up at Barcelona or Real Madrid or something like that. Yeah. And I don't think it's quite worked out. And I think about halfway through the season, when he was with Lopetegui and he was falling out with him and all of this sort of stuff and getting sent off at Tottenham, ironically, started slapping people about like there was no one's business, which if he goes to Tottenham, it's going to be a very awkward first training day when he has to go and apologise to them people. But I just think he just thought to himself it was all going down the pan a little bit, and I think he just stopped giving it.
That's always regrettable when people do that sort of thing.
Yeah, it was.
So it would appear then that it's mutually beneficial for him to leave.
I think he's got to leave.
Yeah.
Would I sell him to Tottenham? Well, the comments I've been getting on my videos was, when we want your best players, we'll take them. Why wouldn't he want to come to Tottenham? Well, I'm going to give you two reasons. Because it's Tottenham. And I mean this with the greatest respect. They think that we fabricate these this rivalry with Tottenham. We don't. Everyone just don't like you. Everybody.
I'll second that.
There is not a team in the Premier League that likes Tottenham, right?
I know. I certainly don't.
And second of all, when we sold you them players, we was in the Championship. We had no choice. Which, if you'd have been one team better this season, you would have been in the Championship and you would have had no choice. So that is where we were there. Would I be selling him to Tottenham? I know we've shown our hand pretty quickly in terms of we've got no money. We need money in before we can sign players, which is shocking, by the way.
So let me ask you a question. Is your hatred of Tottenham more than your love for the money?
I don't love the money, Laurie.
No, I'm talking from a West Ham perspective.
Yeah, no. With these owners, absolutely not. Absolutely not. The money will come.
I don't know. I would be...
If my stance as West Ham would be, I will sell you him, no issue. Yeah. But you need to reach his release clause, because if we get, although we're in a bad position now, maybe chucking a player as a sort of a make weight, But if you get caught selling to Tottenham for less than his release price, the fan base will find that unforgivable, because we shouldn't be in a position where we are now to have to sell to Tottenham. When we let Defoe go, when we let Carrick go, when we let Canute go, when we let Scott Parker go to them, all of them players went when we was in the Championship. They could hold up their hands and say, look, we've got no choice but to sell to them. They're the ones that come in with the bids. We've got to get rid. They've got to go there. You know, we can forgive that. If you're now selling to, as much as they don't want to admit it, a rival, because you finished below us in the league. We were terrible in the league. They finished 17th in the league. And you're selling your better players. Look, I know he wasn't great last season, but he's selling your better players to a so-called rival. It doesn't make you look good as an owner. No, you know, and I would, you know...
He's your second best player, right? Jared Bowen, and then him.
Paquetá, maybe, you know what I mean? But he's up there. He's definitely up there.
But the problem I see is this. So we all know, it's no secret, that Tottenham's chairman, Daniel Levy, is one of the hardest people to negotiate with. And he's going to put you lot through the ringer. So unless you've got alternatives. I mean, I did hear a story to the effect that there was interest from Saudi.
Yes. So, and I think he's open to that as well. I think he sort of dismissed that at first, but then they started offering £400,000.
It's funny how
and all of a sudden he started, yeah.
That often does.
That often happens. Yeah.
Kind of loosen people up a bit as soon as they hear.
And the release price of Saudi is £125 million. Yeah. I don't know whether that's passed because that was only. I think that was a limited time thing. But if anyone wanted to sign him straight away, it'd been £125 million, and you can command a bigger fee, because they're not going to balk at the price.
Yeah.
Levy is harder. But, when you're talking about they couldn't sign Eze because Palace priced them out. Bournemouth have priced them out for Semenyo. We can't be then the alternative to the alternative. Selling them to. I don't think it would. I would be saying to them, unless you pay the money, he's not going to go to you.
And does he want to go to? It would appear that he does want to go to Spurs. From what I've seen,
he's happy to go with Spurs, which, in my eyes, get him that out straight away. I don't want him now.
Because if you look at it from Kudus' point of view, I mean, I don't know if he's married and has a family or whatever, but he doesn't have to uproot, does he?
No.
He'll just go across London. He'll still be in the Premier League, which he's familiar with. He's
the Champions League for a year, until the group stages are finished, and then he'll be out of it. But
so it does make a lot of sense. I know you guys don't want to sell to that lot down the road, but
I don't care personally. But I know the club will be putting himself in a bad position to do that, in terms of business wise, because if they sell to him for less than the price, if Tottenham reach the release clause, the club can turn around and go, look, we couldn't do nothing. There's nothing we could do. He wanted to go there. They've reached release clause. We can reject all these. But I've got a feeling £60 million and he's gone. I've got a feeling he's already gone. I've got.
It's starting to look like that. I mean, obviously you see him week in, week out, and he's played in a variety of positions. What would you say is his best position?
I liked him at right wing, but him personally thinks he personally believes that his best position is a sort of the point of the 10. Yeah. Which we've never seen him now, because we've had Paquetá playing now.
They're going to need a 10, and because Maddison's always injured. They were trying to get Eze. I don't think that's going to happen.
I think.
So I must admit, man, it's looking like it's going to be time.
I think it will be done. And all rivalry aside, I think that's a fantastic signing for Spurs.
Again, a bit like Rashford. If you can get him fit and focused, there's a player there. Because I must admit, I've seen him play live a couple of times when you guys have played us, and he's always impressed.
When we beat you this season, he was. You couldn't. You couldn't. That was last season's.
And that, what that strikes me of as a player that knows he's in the shop window. We're playing Arsenal. You saw
that a lot this season. As soon as we started playing the big boys, all of the big players started to
and that's so frustrating as a fan.
It's frustrating, it is frustrating when you can do it against Arsenal and make them look stupid. And then you go to Bournemouth next week, or not Bournemouth, I wouldn't even say Bournemouth, but you go to Ipswich next week and you can't get to the ball. But there we go. So that's it. Let's go on to Arsenal then.
Let's do that.
Eze seems to have been done by Arsenal. So Arsenal have been boosted.
I'm made up about that
in their bid to reduce the transfer fee required to sign Eze. I'm just going to call him Eze.
Yeah, just call him Eze.
As Crystal Palace has said to be keen on signing a Gunners star. And Andrea Berta and Mikel Arteta are working to bolster the Arsenal squad in what's promised to be a big transfer window this season. Eze has a £60 million release clause in his contract, payable in 3 instalments, which could rise to £68 million with add-ons. £60 million for Eze, when you're talking about £60 million for Kudus. I think that's a no-brainer. That's crazy money for a fantastic player.
Listen, I think I'm pretty sure that I speak for the majority of the fans. I've not spoken to a single fan, whether in person or online, that does not want Eze to come to the club. Outstanding player, Premier League tested and proven, can play in a number of positions. The 10, can play out on the wing. He has the right mental capacity. Very talented, creative, could score goals from outside the box, inside the box, good at set pieces. It's a no-brainer.
Go back to Wilfried Zaha. I think it was 2012, wasn't it, when he went there? 2012. Wilfried Zaha goes to Man United. He's a top star at Crystal Palace. Outgrown the club. Goes to Man United, gets frozen out. Can't really handle the big club pressure. Ends up at Cardiff before going back to Crystal Palace and having a very stellar career at Crystal Palace. Is this move too much for Eze? Or does the England place, because let's remember, Zaha was an England player before he transferred.
That's true.
He never really held down an England place. It appears Eze has got his place in the England side. And he's played in big games, big international games. Will that bode him well for the Arsenal deal?
You know what? I understand the comparison, but I'm confident that if we do get Eze, we're getting him at the right time. I think mentally and physically, I think he's almost peaking. Yeah, you know what I mean? So I think that this would be a fantastic signing. I know the player. He's on the record as saying he wants to come to Arsenal. He was rejected by Arsenal as a youngster. And so the story goes, he cried for a week when it happened. So you can see that there's a love for Arsenal there. And like I said, everything aligns. You know what I mean? It would be a tremendous signing.
It all points to...
Yeah. And if he does come to Arsenal, I'm almost sure he's going to work out. Because like I said, he's got the talent. He seems to have the mentality. He has the attributes that we need. And like I said, to me, it's a no-brainer.
He seems to have a lot of ambition as well.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like he's an ambitious...
Seems like quite a humble guy as well. He looks like the kind of player that Arteta would love to work with. I've noticed that Arteta has a certain type of prototype character that he likes. And I think Eze fits that well.
He nearly came to us,
Really?
Yeah. When he went to Palace, it was between him and Ben Rama, I believe.
Wow.
We chose Ben Rama.
Now where is he, by the way, now? Because I always liked him.
That's the problem. We don't. No one knows where he is, and that's the problem. Why we chose
talented player, but I think a little bit.
Yeah, it wasn't
not quite there
quite
mentally.
There,
but and that's such an important part.
I think that's a fantastic sign. Where does he play, Laurie?
Right. So he can play. His best position is a 10. I think most people would say that, but he can play on the wing as well.
So does that? Will that drop Odegaard into the party role? Because you're going to need a replacement because Jorginho's gone, Partey's gone. Does that drop drop Odegaard into that position?
Well, potentially. I mean, what I would say is Arteta's on the record, and we've seen it with previous players. He likes players that have an element of versatility to them, that can play more than one position. So he could conceivably play out on the wing. He could play the number 10. Now, in terms of the number 10, that puts pressure on Odegaard because, let's face it, Odegaard last season didn't have his best season. And when you're a team like Arsenal are aspiring to be, you need to have people challenging for places. Part of the problem with Odegaard last season was that when his levels dipped, there was no real replacement there. They tried one year there a couple of times, but he's a young kid. So you need somebody pushing people. And then, of course, like I said, you can play him on the left wing. Either way, we'd be happy for him to come. I guess if you're Eze, that is, there might be a slight reservation in, you might be thinking to yourself, do I start every week at Arsenal? But then even then, that's a challenge that he will probably embrace. He'll be looking at that and thinking, look, I can force my way into this team. So it's an exciting signing in every way.
I think it's brilliant. We've got some breaking news come up. Aston Villa, Barcelona, Chelsea and AS Roma and Lyon are all fined by UEFA for breaching financial fair play regulations. Let's have a guess. Let's have a game, Laurie, to see how much you think they've been fined each one. So I'm going to tell you now, right? Chelsea's been fined the most. How much has Chelsea been fined for breaching financial fair play regulations?
10 million?
20 million euros.
Wow.
Barcelona's next. Have a guess.
Well, they're skint, so 15.
Bang on, 15 million. Yeah. Lyon, who went down and has he's causing all sorts of trouble with Crystal Palace. We've still got to see what happens with that. Lyon,
they've got to be about 20 at least.
12.5 million.
Maybe that's because they ain't got it.
Aston Villa are in now. I'm going to just tell you this one. 11 million euros have been fined. And Roma are still are at the bottom at 3 million euros. Still no Manchester City in that list. They look like they're going to get away with it, to be honest with you. That is crazy, isn't it?
See, the thing
how does that make you feel as an Arsenal fan? I mean, because you've lost out to the league title a couple of times and there's still nothing happening. You've had clubs like Everton and Nottingham Forest and all that deducted point.
It's not a good look, is it?
What is going on?
Because basically what they've been accused of is financial doping. It's against the rules. And there's, 100 and odd charges? And you're telling me that he's dragged on for this long? And
do you think all of these financial fair play things are fair, though? We see sort of Aston Villa trying to work around something the other day by buying their own women's team. Should we just scrap it?
It's such a myriad.
It's just a mess.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to even try and pretend that I understand what's going on. No. I do know that these clubs have broken the rules and they should be punished accordingly. But even those examples that you give there, it was noticeable that the Premier League clubs getting fined the most money. Yeah. Okay, Barcelona was 15, but Chelsea, why would they hit so heavy compared to some of the other teams?
They did spend £1.5 billion, I suppose. I still don't understand it. I'm not going to pretend to understand it.
But you do make a very good point about the city. When is that case going to come around?
Yeah, when is it coming around? We want to know.
They're down to their lawyers keep batting it back.
As the old meme goes, we might get GTA 6 before we get a Man City charge, which is going to be crazy.
Oh, no,
it's going to be crazy. Just to wrap the show up, a quick mention on Mbeumo after this. Mbeumo transfer saga. Brentford are refusing to lower their asking price of £63 million for Cameroon international Mbeumo, and if the deal for the 25-year-old cannot be agreed with Manchester United, they will expect the forward to report for pre-season training on Monday. Everyone's going back on Monday. Yeah. Man United are expected to go with an improved offer for Brentford forward. Internal discussions at United continue over the next steps regarding their pursuit of the 25-year-old who effectively has 2 years left on his deal. There is a feeling that United's proposal worth an initial £55 million, reaching £62.5 million with add-ons, is not far away from what Brentford want. However, the structure of the deal would be significant.
You know what? Fair play to Brentford for
stick to your guns.
Stick to your guns.
Stick to your guns.
They're saying, okay, we may be a selling club, but you're not gonna, violate us. We're gonna get what we think is worth for the player, and you have to applaud them for that.
Great season last season.
The only thing is, I don't know if Mbeumo will be too happy about reporting back to training, because he appears to have made it very well known that he wants to join United. There may be an issue there.
Yeah, you've made your bed. And we do see that a lot with players trying to foot, which I don't like. That is a part of football I don't like. You've got a contract with these people. They've put you on a pedestal. There's going to be, if you back yourself enough, there's time to go to a big club. You're 25-year-old. If you went there, if you stayed another year and give Brentford another year, what's the problem? If you back yourself?
But I do suspect that United will fall in line and probably will. They may not go to the right to what Brentford want, but I'm sure a compromise will be worked out.
It's not far away. £55 million, reaching £62.5 million with add-ons. Yeah. They want £63 million.
Yeah,
so if they go up to 60 mil, raising to 65 mil, I think it's done.
Yeah. And they need to bring in a few players, Brentford, because, they'll be losing Mbeumo. They lost Norgard. They lost their manager. So
when you think about what these clubs are relying on in terms of, we're talking about the PSR, the financial fair play rules. You can't be letting players go for cheap.
Exactly.
To big clubs, because you can't afford to. You have to find the money to replace them with 2 free players, maybe. So,
and not only that, when clubs know that you've just had a big bag, you go to buy one of their players. You just got 60 odd million. Yeah, I tell you what, Nicky Hawkins, mate. They want 50 mil.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
But that's it, But they can't, they can't run. I think the days of the cheap stars getting picked off from
big boy in
clubs,
the little clubs.
You're talking about Bournemouth asking £70 million for a player. We need to now. Them sort of clubs need to ask that sort of thing, because if you don't, you're going to fall in these traps. Yep. But there we go. That was the show for today. Yeah, that was it, mate. That's all we got.
I enjoyed that. That went quick. You always know when it's going well, when it goes quick like
Great discussions, as I say. We will be back live at 5 on Monday, I believe. But thank you very much to Laurie for joining us.
One thing, you didn't say if West Ham have got their eye on any players.
Oh, have they got their eye on any players? I believe there's a player just about to sign for us.
Right.
I won't say his name because I can't remember it right now. But
what league?
It was the French league, I believe, or Belgian league, one of the two. No, he would come from Slavia Prague. His name's Diouf, and he's a left winger, and he looks decent. They reckon Champions League level player for €25 million, I believe. But that's why I think Kudus is already gone somewhere, because we ain't got no money to sign anyone if he hasn't. So that's why I think he will be going.
I'll watch that space.
But watch that space. But in terms of the West Ham transfer, mate, it's pretty grim at the minute. It's not good reading, to be honest. It's really, really bad, and a bad kit launch as well has dampened the spirits. But there we go. That's us for today. Check us out Monday live at 5. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the weather, and we'll see you on Monday.